I'm always a book first, movie second. And
Yep, always.
it actually took me a little bit to come up with this list because there are very few movies I feel do the books justice. Hi, and welcome to Book Chat. I'm Kate.
And I'm Teresa. And today we have a special surprise mini episode. Woo!
Woo!
This episode is not going to be a book review, but in fact, we are actually going to be talking about our favorite book to movie adaptations or series, because some of them are actually TV shows.
Doing something a little bit different.
Definitely. This one is going to be a lot shorter and a little bit more off the cuff for us. We don't have our normal questions and answers that we've been doing with the book reviews. It'll be a little bit more, hopefully, relaxed.
If this is your first time tuning into us, welcome.
Welcome.
And we hope you'll come back and watch some of our other episodes too.
And if this is your first time, Kate and I are sisters-in-law and best friends, and we love to read and we love anything involving books. We will dive right into Jane Austen, actually, because one of my favorite adaptations is the Pride and Prejudice miniseries that came out in 1995. That one is starring Jennifer L. and then Colin Firth. I would say that probably one of the greatest things about that miniseries is that I believe it's 6 parts, maybe it's 5 parts. And they don't leave anything out. Like, it's the book. And
I love it when movies can do that.
When we did our Sense and Sensibility episode, we talked about how funny Jane Austen is. And that really comes through in this Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen is sarcastic, she's sassy, and her characters are also sarcastic and sassy. And this show definitely lets you into Jane Austen's world. It's very historically accurate with the beautiful costumes and the houses that they're living in. And it feels like you're in Jane Austen's world when you watch that show. What's one of yours, Kate?
One of my favorites is The Princess Diaries, the first one. It was released in 2001, and it starred, of course, as we know, Anne Hathaway. And Julie Andrews. One of my favorite things about this, I read the book. I read all the books as a kid. The books are obviously a diary. The movie is not. But one thing I think that's fantastic about The Princess Diaries is it stands on its own. It takes that concept from the books of a regular, ordinary girl living in the United States, and she doesn't know she's royalty. That's very much from the book. There's not a whole lot that's similar, but what I love about them is that it creates this entirely new thing and that you can love both the books and the movie independently. And you can go read the other and experience a whole new work of art, of literature, or movie. And you might not like one when you like the other. I like both.
The Princess Diary movies are some of my mom's favorites. She probably watches those at least once a year. She loves them. So another one for mine, and this one's actually middle grade, I would say, is Holes. That came out in 2003, directed by Andrew Davis and starring Shia LaBeouf. I really enjoyed this movie because it is so similar to the book. Again, one that can be very much compared to the book. One of the major differences is in the book, Shia LaBeouf's character, Stanley Yelnats, he starts off as this big kid, but because he's out there working and shoveling all the time to dig the holes, he loses weight. And that's the only major difference between the book and the movie, I feel like. They are really good in the movie about going back and forth between the 3 different storylines that you're following. They really nail Zero's story and his tragic background, and Stanley Yelnats being accidentally convicted of this crime of stealing these famous shoes that he didn't steal. And I mean, with the peaches and the onions, it's all in the movie. And it's incredible that they can do a whole book in a movie and do it so well and so succinctly.
Very unusual. My second one is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which, if you're familiar with that book at all, it's by Judy Blume, and it was written in the 70s. And the movie was released in 2023 and stars Abby Ryder Foster, Rachel McAdams, and Kathy Bates, which I did not realize Kathy Bates was in it as her grandmother. So that was a fun little surprise for me when I watched that. The whole book, because she's 12 years old and, she's going through adolescence and puberty, it's very cringe. Margaret is embarrassing. Margaret is embarrassed. Her whole life is embarrassing, very much accurate to being that age. And I felt like the movie captured that pretty accurately with the addition of adult oversight. They also followed the adults in the film, which I don't remember the book doing at all. I was surprised at how much I related to the adults more than
Oh,
Margaret.
that's
Which
well,
when I
sure, that makes
last
sense.
read the book, I related way more to Margaret. So
Sure.
yeah, that shows you know how long it's been. But it's fun. You have first crushes on boys. They play in the sprinklers, very 1970s, and I loved that about it. And it was probably closer to my childhood than I think childhood kids are having today, which is why even though it was written in the 70s, I was relating to it in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was really, really well done. And of course, Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates are fantastic actresses.
I didn't realize there were so many big names in that. That's incredible. All right. So for my third one, you and I have a similar answer for our third ones. I put down Anne of Green Gables that came out in 1985. It's a long movie, and it's starring Megan Follows. I really loved Anne of Green Gables growing up. I loved the books. I don't think I read all of them actually. Now that I say this, I think I only read the first four,
That's about how
three.
many I read too.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
stopped when she was getting older.
Yeah, I did too. Because I was an adolescent and I wanted to read about her adolescent years. I think
Same.
that's
I wanted to leave her out school and
mhm.
things like that. I definitely
Yeah.
didn't read the ones where she was a nurse.
I definitely focused on the years that when I was a kid, I could relate to the most. And I think that's also why the movie is so great. It really captures the essence of Anne being this chatterbox
Mhm.
who has this huge imagination and she's always getting herself into scrapes. And it doesn't follow the book chapter by chapter by any means, but it really captures the essence of the book and her relationship with Gil. Again, it doesn't really follow the book super closely. There are scenes from the book. You definitely feel like you've gotten the overall same feeling. It's a wholesome movie and it is very long, but I do recommend people watching that one if they're a fan of Anne of Green Gables.
I also put down an Anne of Green Gables adaptation, the Anne with an E 2017-2019 series. There was a total of 27 episodes, and it starred Amy Beth McNulty, Geraldine James as Morella, and R.H. Thompson as Matthew. I loved this series. I thought, as you mentioned, that the 1985 one captured the essence of Anne. This also captured the essence of Anne. Like from the very beginning, I was like, that's my Anne. Like, that's how
Nice.
I'm always gonna picture Anne from here on out. I mean, Beth McNulty played a very wonderful Anne. It captured her dramatics, her adventures, her spunky spirit, and again, all the accidents and all the things that continually happen to Anne. And it's fun because it expands on the book. I believe they diverge from the Morella and Matthew story a bit, which bothered me because I thought that was very important. And even though it's not exactly true to the book, it definitely captures who Anne is. And I think it stands alone, but more in tandem with the book than Princess Diaries.
I think here's a moment to actually talk about how classics have been redone over and over again. And I do feel we get so many Pride and Prejudices, so many Emmas, so many Anne of Green Gables, and they change a little bit with the generation. Characters can be related a little bit more to the generation that they're in. And sounds like that's what Anne with the E is a little bit, is
Definitely, definitely.
Anne of Green Gables from 1985, I think is going to be nostalgic for people that were alive in the 80s and the 90s. Maybe not so much for a younger generation. And if you can get a show that interests people in Anne of Green Gables for this generation, I think that's great.
I think Anne with an E did a very good job of appealing to like Gen Z and younger millennials who maybe weren't exposed to Anne beforehand, but also appealing to some of that nostalgia of someone who loved all of the Anne of Green Gables stuff. So I think Anne with an E did a very good job at crossing generations for the modern era.
Now for our last two books, or actually series of books, they're not just books.
Yes, series of books and series of movies.
Kate and I have the same ones. The first one that we're going to discuss is the Hunger Games series.
Yes.
The first movie came out in 2012.
We definitely are fans of the Hunger Games. And I think that actually the last movie improved upon the book.
I think the first one almost improves upon the book.
Yes. I wonder if it's because Suzanne Collins, the writer, had so much influence over the movies.
That could definitely be it. I think another thing is the book is only first person point of view Katniss, and in the movies it's not that. You have them it's jumping around, right? You're in
Right.
that like media center or whatever you want to call it, and they're explaining the games as they're happening instead of it just being from Katniss's point of view. One of the things that I personally appreciate about the movies is I like Katniss's character better. I think Jennifer
Do as well.
Lawrence,
She's much more likable.
she is. She's not very likable in the books. She's so self-centered, especially in that first one where she's just like, I gotta kill everybody. Even
Mhm.
PETA, he's going down. When you read Haymitch's book, he's all about alliances. And
Mhm.
Katniss is all about herself.
I was glad they rewrote her character for the
Yeah,
movie.
I'm not sure the audience would have returned for a second Hunger Games movie if her character in the movies was the same as the books. That girl is insufferable. Jennifer Lawrence, I think she just did a beautiful job with it. I read the books before the movies came out, but
Mhm.
now that I've seen Jennifer Lawrence, I'm like, yeah, that's Katniss. That's
Exactly.
Katniss
She
Everdeen.
really embodies that part.
I do enjoy the Hunger Game movies. I do enjoy the books. I do enjoy them together, having experienced both, but I think I could also enjoy them separately. I think most people could.
Yes, I think so too.
I think there was a huge Hunger Games following with people that hadn't actually read the books, when those movies came out.
Speaking of our last set that both Teresa and I would say mildly obsessed with
Yeah. I'm not sure it's
is
even mild for me.
is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I know we both adore the books and also the rare instance where the movies I think are as good as the books.
So, for those who aren't familiar, which I don't know how that's possible, but it came out in 2001, the first one, because it's a trilogy. So,
Mhm.
Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001, directed by Peter Jackson, and is starring Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Viggo Mortensen, Orlando Bloom, Billy Boyd, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett. There are so many big names.
So many, Liv Tyler, Christopher Lee.
Andy Serkis.
I think my standouts of those movies are definitely Fellowship of the Ring and Return of the King, so the first and the third. I know many people who haven't read the books love and really appreciate the Two Towers, which I totally understand, but I think it's the furthest from the book. But over time, I've come to appreciate the edits that Christopher Jackson made. It didn't take away from the core of the story.
I think Return of the King is probably, of the 3 movies, it's probably my favorite, but I love them all so much, including Two Towers. I will say that there are some characteristics that are different in some of the characters. In my mind, Aragorn is a little bit more Gandalf-like in the books. He's
Yes, I would
definitely
agree.
he's definitely more wise, but when I watch the movie, that doesn't bother me that he's not like that. He is a very intelligent, very, very wise person, not quite wizard wise. And then one of the big character differences, and again, this doesn't really bother me, is Faramir.
Yes, I actually thought they improved upon the character of Faramir.
I see them as 2 totally different characters in the book and the movie. The book, Faramir, he's a little more wizard-wise, and he's just so noble. In the movies, he's more human. He has faults. In
Yes.
in the books, when he realizes that Frodo has the ring, Frodo's worried that Faramir's gonna take it from him, and he tells Frodo, "I wouldn't pick that up if I saw it laying on the side of the road, like,
Mhm.
be on your way." And in the
Yes.
movies, he's like, "I'm gonna take this back to my dad, and he's gonna be so proud of me." And it's very big difference in characters. However, I do appreciate the movie because he is human, and he does have faults. And J.R.R. Tolkien does this thing where the good guys are super good and the bad guys are
Yes.
super evil. And I get it,
Mhm.
they're kids' books.
With the exception of Frodo.
A little bit like Pippin and Merry. Actually, the Hobbits. The Hobbits in all the books, including like The Hobbit, I think he does a good balance of, them fighting their natural instincts. But Peter Jackson did make these movies for adults. So he makes them a little bit more realistic for adults,
Yes.
like
Yes.
Faramir, like Aragorn. So
Say that the hobbits are probably most true to the book.
yes, I agree with that.
Especially Sam, I felt was most true to the book. Even the parts they added for him just really captured who he was in the book. And then Frodo, I felt was very well done. And Merry and Pippin were pretty well done. I see Pippin as a little bit more frivolous, goofy in the books, but
Mm.
he's a little bit more serious in the movies, I felt.
And Mary is a little bit more serious in the books. Um,
Yes.
when Merry and Pippin join Frodo and Sam, they already kind of know what's going on. And they're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
what's up? You're leaving the Shire. We know you have something that you're trying
Yes.
to protect." And it's pretty much all coming from Mary. In the movies, they're definitely just like thrown into the situation with Frodo and
Yeah.
Sam, but in the book, it's more intentional on Merry and Pippin's part.
Yes. If there
So,
can be comic relief in those movies, it definitely would be Pippin and Mary.
yeah, absolutely. But I
So
still love them. Like, it doesn't
I
matter
do
that
too.
they're and even with the differences, I love characters in both the movies and the books
I do
separately.
too. You can
I love
appreciate
them.
it's easy to appreciate both. Also, a big difference in the movie was Peter Jackson enlarged the parts of Eowyn and Arwen, which I
Yes.
actually appreciated very much. Some of that is in the appendices, if you've ever read them, but I appreciated he did try and get some women representation in there because
A little
the
bit
books
more, yeah.
are very much heavy on the men.
I can't fault J.R. Tolkien for that
I
because
can't either.
he's writing based off of Old English literature like Beowulf, and it's
Yes,
all men
and
doing stuff.
also the time he was in. He was writing what he knew, and he was also it was wrapped up in his experiences of the World War he was in. So I can't really fault him for that, like you said. But I appreciate that the movies tried to adapt.
And J.R.R. Tolkien is writing for himself, and I think things could have gotten sexist if
Yes,
he
I
had
think
tried
so
to
too.
if he had tried to make women characters.
I agree.
So,
So it's better he just didn't. And then
yeah.
like we said, when you recreate something for another generation, you can update it, you can modernize it, you can make it a little bit more relatable. So that's
Yes.
why we've added the women in The Lord of the Rings.
Love Lord of the Rings.
It's top of the list for me for
It's
any
the
book
yeah,
to movie adaptation.
same here. In fact, I was recently on an airplane and I was watching the extended version of Return of the King. And I've already told Kate this story, but there was a guy sitting next to me and I'm watching it and I have earbuds in, but I had subtitles on and he just watched it with me the entire
I love it.
It's
So
because it's a
very
classic.
relatable today. It is a
It's
classic.
good, you know?
I'm always book first, movie second. And
Yep, always.
it actually took me a little bit to come up with this list because there are very few movies I feel do the books justice. So
If you are the type of person that you need an image in your head already and you do the movie first and then the book, that's absolutely fine.
that's
Like
absolutely fine. Just
we're not here to judge.
no.
Do what you got to do. All right. Well, that is everything from us. I hope you enjoyed this surprise in between week mini episode.
Yes. And go watch some movies and read some books.
Read some books, and we hope to see you next time.
Yes. Thank you for
Bye.
tuning in. Bye.